So I was at Goodwill the other day, and while walking around the tech section, I found this keyboard. At first, it looked like a regular keyboard, but then I noticed that it had what looked like an iPod dock on it. At first I thought, why the heck would you need a keyboard that had an iPod dock on it? It was only a few bucks, so I bought it, took it back home, then did a little research. It turns out this wasn't for an iPod, it was for an iPad, which made a lot more sense. Under closer inspection, I noticed that the top row of keys looked weird. It didn't have an escape key or function keys. It had a rounded rectangle key and a flower key. I thought this was super weird. I have to make a video about this. So that's what I'm doing now. Unfortunately, I don't have any dock connector iPads on me, but I do have plenty of dock connector iPod touches, so that's what I'll be using instead. On the back, it has a 30-pin in and a headphone jack. I wanted to see if it worked, so I connected my 4th generation iPod to it, and I went to see if it worked. Turns out it totally did. I was able to type out things on here, and there wasn't any problems. However, I still had a few questions, and that's what this video is going to answer. What the heck is up with those keys? And why is there no escape key? Well, the first key is a home button key. It simply acts as a replacement for the home button. Next is the search key, which will bring up the search function. After that, you have brightness controls, and they work how you would expect. However, this next one is weird. It's the weirdest key on here. It's apparently the photo frame mode, but whenever I press it, it just brings it to a black screen. I've never seen this photo frame mode actually function correctly, and so this is pretty weird. After that is the keyboard key, which simply brings up the on-screen keyboard. Next you have a functionless button that does absolutely nothing. I'm not sure why they put that there, but whatever. These next keys should be familiar to anyone who's used a MacBook before. You got music control keys and volume control keys. Finally, you have a lock button that simply turns your device off. Next, I needed to see if I could use this thing on a new iOS device. So, I took an adapter, plugged it into my new phone, and connected it to see if it would work. And yes, it totally does work. I was pretty amazed by this. Everything worked perfectly fine. Even all the special function keys, except for the photo frame key, which did nothing. Funnily enough, pressing the brightness keys will bring up a UI that looks like what the volume controls looked like before the latest iOS version, which I found pretty funny. It was probably just left in there by accident. And yes, the headphone jack does work, making this the most complicated way to add a headphone jack back to a modern iPhone. So unfortunately, I don't think you can use this thing on a USB-C iPad Pro, since I don't think there are any 30-pin to USB-C adapters out there. Although, it is worth noting that I don't actually have one to test out, so if any of you guys want to prove me wrong, then you can. One thing that's weird is that unlike Bluetooth keyboards, this keyboard will have no function on games that have keyboard support. So you won't be able to use this to control your movement in Minecraft or enter in cheat codes in Grand Theft Auto. For my final test, I wanted to see if you could use this keyboard to play Flash games. So, I went to Newgrounds and I loaded up a game that was enabled with Ruffle, a modern Flash emulator that allows you to play Flash games after the Flash end of life. At first it just gave me an error screen because I was on mobile, but after telling it to request the desktop site, it loaded up the game. And surprisingly enough, it totally works. So now you can finally live the dream of every kid in 2010 to play Flash games on your phone. Now, You might be wondering why I consider this to be weird tech. I mean, it is kind of weird to have a keyboard that has a 30-pin connector, but it's not the weirdest thing in the world when you consider it was just for an iPad. But why I consider this so weird is because if you look at Apple's website from the time, you'll notice that their Bluetooth keyboard is the same price as this keyboard. To me, this makes no sense. Why would you ever buy this keyboard? The Bluetooth keyboard has full functionality with computers and iPads, but this keyboard you can only use on iOS devices. After a year, it got listed as currently unavailable, but it never became available again. They never bothered making a new one once Lightning-enabled iPads came out. However, funnily enough, recently, Apple is now making iPad keyboards again. These make a lot more sense, as they allow you to use the iPad horizontally instead of keeping it vertical, and it can be a part of the case, making it much more portable, and not having a giant lump sticking out of it. I hope you found this video interesting. When I saw this at Goodwill, I knew I had to make a video about it because I just found it so weird. If there's any other piece of tech that you would like me to make a video on that you consider weird, leave them in the comments below, and tell me how I can improve my videos. Thank you, and goodbye.